Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back. I'm back after my jaunts in Amsterdam. I was Amsterdamaged when I came back for a couple of days, but I'm back fighting fit. And yes, thank you to Martin and Kevin for holding the fort while I was off. And we're here with Fans Forum night, and also again preview night, because we have some work to do in the Champions League to get through to that quarterfinal stage. So we're going to go through all of that, the Club Brugge preview. We're going to talk potential signings of loan players. We're going to talk, is Villa's Euro charge in the league back on? And obviously talk also PSR and finances, because Champions League qualification, Champions League, as far as we can get in this competition, is going to be huge for Aston Villa as the season and the years go by. So we're going to talk all things finances as well, and obviously your comments and questions, as it's Fans Forums night as well. Martin, how are you doing, mate? Thank you for holding the fort while I was away.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone had to hold up the mantle while you had to go off gallivanting in Amsterdam and, having yourself a few drinks and a few other substances which we're not going to name. But I'm glad you had a great time, and it was absolutely no problem. Some people even said it was probably a bit better without you, Rich. That wasn't me.
I did hear that.
That wasn't me saying. I'm sorry.
Well, look, Patty says, welcome back, Rich. Martin and Kev did a great job keeping you all in line. So hello all up the Villa. So yes, mate, you boys did a great job. Make sure you smash a like button, smash a like on the video as well, people. And please do hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. We want to get close. We're getting closer to 6K. We want to hit that big 10K as well. So please do help us. And we're going to do loads more shows over the next few weeks. Going to get right back into it. So please do keep supporting the channel. So we don't know who we're going to face right now. It is on an absolute knife edge at the moment. Liverpool against PSG. But we have to do our job tomorrow, Martin. And you've seen, a lot of these Champions League games are pretty close. Club Brugge in the last round, I think you've talked about this quite a lot with how they played against Atalanta. Yes, we are 3-1 up, but before we get into the game and before we get into kind of Villa's lineup and everything like that, I mean, it isn't one to be taken lightly right yet, is it? We've got to get the job done.
No, absolutely not. And I remember when Atalanta were, 2-1 down against Club Brugge, and Club Brugge played their game very effectively, set up for the counter. 3 goals in the first half, 3 very good goals, might I add you. No, nothing sloppy about it. 3 very good goals, and it's going to feel like, although this is on the different end now, where it's going to feel like that Club Brugge are going to chase the game, so it kind of falls into our hands a little bit that if they do chase the game, then we need to be quick and effective on the counter. Because when we played against Brentford, I felt the first half, when we were catching Brentford on the counter, we were too slow. Taking the extra touches when we didn't need it. But then for our goal, we didn't take any extra touches. 1 touch, Jacob Ramsey dribbled with the ball for another touch, pass off, Ollie Watkins from the left and through the goalkeeper's legs. It was that simple. So if that's going to be the case where Club Brugge are going to chase the game and we catch them on the counter, then we need to be quick and effective and put the game to bed early.
Yeah. It's one of those, isn't it, where you think, look, a goal for Villa would settle it down. A solid performance as well, solid, organised, would also keep us in check. But then one of those early goals or first shot on target conceded or something like that, will be really putting the cat amongst the pigeons for Aston Villa and the players and the fans. And you've seen it in quite a few of these games over the last couple of years that we've been in Europe. Even the Celtic game, there was lots on that game. It's a phenomenal atmosphere, but we went 2-0 up and then and then all of a sudden we're back to 2-2. And we've had these types of games, haven't we, where it's been back and forth, or it's been right up until the last minute. I think back to Zrinski Mostar at home last season when we couldn't get a goal, and then we just managed to get something right at the end. So these European nights, anything can happen in them. Anything can happen, and we just have to, make sure we just do our job and do it right. Because, like you say, all these teams are dangerous. It doesn't matter who you're facing.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing as well, like, maybe in the game against Celtic, we probably got complacent, getting 2 early goals, and we were complacent, thinking the game was won, let's play around with it, and you get punished for it. And that's exactly what the Champions League is. It doesn't matter if it's Celtic or a Club Brugge or Atalanta, Dortmund, whoever you face, if you get complacent, you're going to get turned over. And that's been the case for probably a lot of teams if you're not switched on. When you look at the prime example of PSG against Liverpool last week, PSG battering Liverpool, but they were screwed on defensively and got a pure smash and grab win. That can happen too in the Champions League, so you always have to be ready.
Yeah, 100%. And you've got our picture set up for the show today, and you talk about what Villa can do in terms of atmosphere, what we can do in creating a spectacle. And we know that there's been some absolutely wonderful nights so far in this competition, and I'm sure tomorrow will be no different. And the crowd can play and have played such a part in this competition, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, prime example, Bayern Munich. I mean, the one game where we all said we'll take a draw and then we go and win 1-0. It was really like written in the stars sort of thing since 1982 and beating them. And then we go and beat them again 1-0, the same scoreline. And then obviously a game against Juventus, we really turned it up. And for Celtic, and we played somebody else. Bologna, that's the one. Bologna at home. Them four, we've really turned it up, and I've no doubt the fans are going to turn it up again because it's the knockout stage now. This is the big stage. So we're in with the big boys now, and this is it. So whoever we get in the next round, if we win, please God, then the fans will have to turn up again.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about the actual game then and the potential for players coming back, Unai said in his press conference that after sort of resting Marco Asensio, which we'll come to in a minute, I'm getting comments in about him already, Asensio and Emi Martinez, resting them, they're back fit, and also welcome that Amadou Onana, I don't know if everyone remembers him, we actually signed him in the summer, he's back. Yeah, exactly. He's back on for available for selection tomorrow. And only Ross Barkley is still not quite right. So a huge boost for Unai Emery. We know that Marlon's not in the squad. We know that Garcia's not in the squad. But massive, massive boost for Unai Emery to have these numbers of players available. And I really do think of the midfield. John McGinn and Yuri Tillemans have absolutely put in a shift over the last few weeks. And yeah, just to have some options in midfield is going to be huge, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, we've kind of seen it now in the last week or two with Kamara being back that, Wondon was getting replaced, and, it was a great rest period, because they were playing 90 minutes every single week, being drained, and not just drained physically, but drained mentally too, because being mentally tired is completely different to being physically tired. It comes to your decision making, it comes to your attitude on the pitch, and that all has an effect then physically. So them two lads have been absolutely incredible, and mentally too. So it's a great credit to them.
Yeah, 100%. And few comments coming in, so let's talk about him. Duncan said, hope Asensio signs as he's just bought his number 21 shirt. Patty's also bought the shirt as well. And Stephen says, you know what they say, never fall in love with a lone player. And there's been talk, there's been talk of, Villa in talks already for signing for around about 15 million euros. And, what are your thoughts? Because in Europe, I think he is almost the perfect player for Aston Villa as it stands. The pedigree, the ability on the ball, the calmness on the ball, the composure on the ball, the ability to start games and control possession, or to come on in games, to change it, and to, he came on against Bruges, scored that penalty, gives us a bit of poise and quality in midfield. What it means for him being in the starting lineup or on the bench in terms of the opposition mind, he is extremely important. But Yeah, what do you think about the potential to look at signing him already? Are we getting a little bit carried away?
There probably is an element of getting too carried away, but I think, Rich, as well, when you have 5 goals in 4 games, it does smell like a bit of a Coutinho kind of situation where, he was getting all the goals early on and we kind of rushed into it. But I feel like this is different. It's a different manager. It's a completely different squad. There's a completely different attitude now. So the Coutinho was more like doing a favour for Steven Gerrard, where for Asensio, it's more like, well, this team's going to keep challenging for Europe, and I'm going to play under a manager who's going to play me every single week. Doesn't matter if he comes off the bench; he knows it's a big squad, so it's important to not use these players 100% of the time, rather at like 90 or 80% to keep fitness levels, to keep the squad healthy, and recovery sessions can be a lot better. And I think Asensio, that's going to suit perfectly. And I think for £12 million, €15 million, I think it's a no-brainer. Like he's unbelievable on the ball. I mean, he's getting 2 braces now in his last 2 games. His vision is absolutely sensational. So I don't see why not. I think he just suits the system perfectly.
James said he thinks out of the two, Asensio would be the better buy than Rashford. And Duncan said to get Asensio, Rashford, and Disasi on a permanent basis, we'd have to sell a player or two in the summer. He reckons. What do you think? What do you think to that?
I agree with Duncan there. Yeah, I think if you're going to get all 3 of them, you're probably talking about selling 1, if not 2. And who they are now, it would be a different story. But maybe the 2 to be sold could be Nadal Djokovic and Buendia, who have really good value at this minute. I know Buendia is an option to buy from Leverkusen for €20 million, so about £15 million. So you're still getting a good chunk of money in there. Nadal Djokovic, you're probably talking between 15 to 20 as well, because he's got a couple of first team appearances in the Premier League and the Champions League. So you're probably talking the gusts of maybe between 30 to 40 million euros for them 2 players, which kind of helps. We'll cover the fee more or less from Marcus Rashford.
Yeah.
But whether for Disasi and Asensio will be a different story about who we sell there.
Yeah, and it's saying that Disasi would, he's had a good start again and it was excellent. I really loved his performance on Saturday against Brentford. A defender who really likes to defend, which is something that I think, he's missing a lot in Premier League at the moment, which is great. But we'd probably face a fair bit of competition for him. But all we can do is keep him enjoying with the club. And the other option with Asensio, I think there was the openness to go on with another year, an 18-month loan almost. So we'll see with that. But it depends on the value, doesn't it? Because you then have to pay a loan fee and everything like that as well into it. So the value might be in signing him. But yeah, for me, I think I would wait a little bit longer. I don't get me wrong, he's been phenomenal. It's just you're buying that player. There's not really much resale value on that, and we've been down that road before, which is
we have.
Which is always difficult to kind of get to move these players on. But he is an absolute class act, and I'm sure he will play some part in the game tomorrow. In terms of, I guess, before we get your starting lineup, you talking here, Kamara and Disasi, I guess, with the 2 of them in the picture, and you've labelled that as should start. So I'm guessing both of these without giving too much away, both of these got a very good chance of getting in your starting 11, Martin.
Yeah, I just think Disasi has been absolutely sensational. I'm loving him in that right back role, because we all know Emery has really been missing that centre back / right back type of role in his team and let the left back constantly do the bombing on. So we've kind of really missed that this season with Matty Cash being constantly injured. Then Nadal Djokovic probably wasn't getting as much game time, and he's having to put Bogart out there, and then Konza doesn't want to play right back anymore. So to kind of get somebody in to do that role has really kind of lifted us defensively, I felt, especially against Brentford, where Disasi was just the best player on the pitch, and that was by a country mile. And Digne and Matson on that left side was able to just go up and down, no problem. And with Kamara, I feel like this is probably the perfect game for him to start, because after then we've got a bit of a week's break, because we've no game.
Two and a half weeks, mate. We've got
2.5 weeks. So then there you go. It's perfect. It's perfect for him to start because of the fact that Liverpool and Newcastle have the Carabao Cup final, which affected us in a game against Liverpool then. So it's a perfect game for him to start and then to do a lot more recovery sessions.
Yeah. Well, you made a good point actually last week with regards to players getting called up for international duty. So there'll still be some that will go off, won't they, with their clubs? But I think it's a good. We don't play until the March the 30th, do we? After this game, so we don't play until Preston away, which
Yeah,
is
Preston away.
Sunday,
Yeah.
March the 30th. So there's a good chunk of a break, and I know they're going to warm weather training. But there'll be a good few that will get called up for their international squad. So we'll hope and fingers crossed that we've just got all these players back from injury. I just hope and pray that none come back with any other injuries, any other injuries to affect the rest of the season. Let's have a look at your starting lineup and see how your predicted lineup is looking. Just talk us through what you've gone for here, mate. And get in the comments, people, if you agree or disagree.
Yeah, I've gone with Emi Martinez, obviously, for obvious reason. Olsen did do a great job on Saturday, but time has come. The world number one is back, so please step aside. Thank you, mate. Tasasi, again, sensational out there, and I really think he deserves a spot, and that's probably going to be his now for the next while. Even in the maybe probably lose a spot in the FA Cup, obviously, due to him being cup tied, and Garcia will go there, and I love him so much as well. Cons and Mings, great chemistry. I just think that shouldn't be round to this minute. I think I've seen a stat as well from AVSC Stato that with 33 games with Mings under Emery, we've won 20, drew 6, and lost 7. That's an incredible record, and it just goes to show the importance of having him in the team. Deeney, I think, fixed himself. I think we should be on the caution side of him because I think he is a bit better defensively than Ian Matson. And for the midfield, I've gone with Kamara as the sole 6 because I feel like John McGinn and Tielemans should push themselves up further forward due to the fact that they've done a really good shift in their defensive roles and kind of been restricted as well in terms of attacking flow. And I think for them in this game, I think the two of them will really get a lot out of this with Kamara in the sole 6. And in the front three, I've gone with Rashford, Ollie Watkins, and Morgan Rogers. The reason for Rashford out left, I just think he needs his confidence boost to get himself a goal. He's so close. I just think it is about to come. Ollie Watkins picks himself. For Rogers, I've gone with him on the right simply because his work rate is a lot better than Leon Bailey's in terms of tracking back and helping out Sassy.
Yeah, well, Kevin said he agrees with that lineup, and Duncan also says that would be his lineup, and James as well agreeing. So I think you've got a fair few agreement there. Well, there's the option for Ramsey instead of Rashford that could be in there, and obviously we know that Leon Bailey started the last game in the Champions League, scored as well, scored a very, very good goal. So there's always the opportunity and option for him to start as well. But I don't see anything too wrong with that. I think Kamara's been getting minutes, so I would potentially back him to get a start. Tielemans, I just don't think you can drop him at the moment, and with no other game for a few weeks, there's probably not any point in doing that. He's pretty durable. He should be fine. McGinn, captain, he's not going to not start. And Konsa and Mings, I think you bang on with that. The way that they've played at the back, it's so funny, isn't it? Like centre-back partnerships just click and they just seem to get each other. They just seem to know how to play with each other, which is important. And obviously we've got the option of Pau Torres, who I'm sure will come into more later on in the season. But yeah, I guess Rashford's probably the one. Rashford or Ramsey. Ramsey's looked pretty sharp the other night against Brentford, running with the ball, and looked sharp the other week when he came on as well. So that'd be interesting. Yeah, I can't really disagree with that, but I can equally see Bailey or Ramsey being in that team.
Yeah, the wing is
that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. What it does mean though is that he's now got Onana that could come off the bench, Pau Torres who could come off the bench in terms of solidifying or physicality. He's got Matson who could come off the bench in terms of pace. He's got Matty Cash who could come off the bench again in terms of pace or a slightly different option at right back. And then you look at the attacking options. He's got Asensio, Bailey if he's on the bench, Ramsey if he's on the bench, or Rashford the other side. So he's got a hell of a lot of options at the minute to be able to change the game. And that's
Mm.
exactly what we saw last week, wasn't it? We were looking like we were going to draw that game. Everyone was, every support would have been like, you know what, we'll take a draw, we'll take them back to Villa Park. The one man was that he didn't want to do that was Unai Emery, and he told the players that they were coming on, go and win this game, go and win this game. And he had the ability to make 4 substitutes to go and change the game, and that's what happened.
Yeah, that's it. There's sometimes, like, in games where, you want your players to try and go and win the game, but then sometimes as a manager, you have to take it upon yourself to make these substitutions, to make these tactical changes and probably switch something up to get that result that you want. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, we got lucky with the own goal, which was a great finish, by the way. I think he did it on purpose. And then obviously getting the penalty, which was a great work rate, in my opinion, from Matty Cash, not to give up on that ball. Player to the back from him, doesn't know where he's going. So you always get that little bit of a chance that if he does take you out, he's not going to see you coming, and it's penalty all day long. And it was a great finish, of course, by Asensio, even though he slipped. But yeah, I think it's always that element that with Unai Emery that he always wants to be reactive in terms of if we're drawn, get the win. If we're losing, you still try to get the win or the draw, whatever it might be. He doesn't give up, and I love to see it.
Absolutely, mate. Well, one thing's for sure, it is a good side, and I'm sure that they will be going for that victory, going to get into the quarterfinals. And as it stands at the moment, we don't quite know who we would face in terms of the next round. It is going to extra time at Liverpool against Paris Saint-Germain, which for a Newcastle perspective, they will be absolutely loving that as well with the Carabao Cup final coming up on Sunday. So more minutes in the legs for the Liverpool players. Let's talk. We'll get predictions. We'll get score predictions towards the end in terms of the show, because I want to move to. Actually, let's do this. Purple Rider said we're winning the lot. You heard it here first. Up the effing Villa, which I absolutely love that. So Champions League winners, FA Cup winners, yes. And in terms of the league, the win against Brentford, I guess, we want to go and win every game, but judging by what our away form was like before this game, a 1-0 away win at a tough place to go like Brentford was probably the scoreline that Aston Villa supporters least expected. But also what it did is it propelled us back into that kind of top 5 race. Now, I know we've been quite sort of up and down in terms of or I have certainly up and down in terms of European chances, Champions League chances. I'm still thinking that I'm still sticking with my end of season prediction of top 6, I think, in terms of where I think we'll finish. But how much do you feel like the Euro charge is kind of back on after that win? Do you think that's really put some life back into our European charge, to move back up the table?
Yeah, and I think it's a great opportunity to do that because we're playing the teams now in the last 9 games and the teams around us. With Brighton, Forest, Fulham, Newcastle, still have, and who else?
Well, we've got so we've got Brighton. Yeah, we've got Brighton away, the first league game back, then Forest at home, then Southampton away, then Newcastle at home, Man City away. So that's up until the end of April. And then the last 4 fixtures are Fulham at home, Bournemouth away, and then Tottenham at home, Man United away. So we chatted about this and sort of said there's probably going to be 3, maybe 4 teams in that list that will be on the beach, let's say. One of them teams could be us, by the way. But let's just say we're not. Let's just say it's not. And 3 or 4 of those teams could well be on the beach by the time that we play them. So you are right in the sense of everyone we play almost everyone we play within sort of this next 5 or 6 games is in that race with us. So that just makes the game so much more important.
That's it. It's a 6-pointer, and obviously this season, which was something I touched on with Villa turning up for big games, which is something that we have done this season and kind of not turned up for the small ones as such. Where now every game in the Premier League is a big game, because if these lads want to get fifth place, well, obviously with how the coefficient is performing in the Champions League at the moment, then they have to go and win every single game possible. And like you said, 3, maybe 4 teams on the beach. That might be Southampton, Spurs, Man United. Maybe Manchester City could be on the beach simply because the way they can go in this season. So them players might think they'd be on the beach and might throw the towel in. Who knows? But I definitely think if we go and win, try every game possible. If we can win with 9 games left, if we can win 6 out of them games, I think 5th to 6th would be realistic. And then maybe other results trying to go our way too.
Yeah, well, 18 points would put us on 63. Probably need another point or 2. You're probably going to have to win 7 out of 9. But then again, you just can't say it, because every team around us in those kind of last 5 games sort of thing, barring Brighton, who've won 4 out of the last 5, everyone's in pretty much comparable form. I mean, Bournemouth have been talked about having an amazing season, and they have. But they've only won 1 out of the last 5. Villa have won 2 out of the last 5, so we're actually 8 points from the last 5 games. Newcastle have only won 2 from the last 5. So it's so strange at the moment, isn't it? It is so strange with regards to how teams are doing. And lots of all the comments, Kevin saying 5th is still on. Cases that all basically 6-point games. It was such a big 3 points on Saturday. It was. Julie saying Ollie has said they're focusing on qualifying for the Champions League, so we should believe it's possible too. Newcastle's going to be a 6-pointer, says Stephen, which is it's absolutely true. But one of the things that Unai has got is options now. We've talked about Garcia and Marlon, not in the Champions League squad, but they're available for the Premier League. You look at players coming back to fitness: Onana, Pau Torres, Matty Cash, Ross Barkley, maybe. So he's got plenty of options, hasn't he, to rotate the squad. FA Cup could come into it in terms of an extra game after the Preston game, so that could come into it. But you've got to be thinking, with the options that he's got, we should be trying to go into every single game now with a fresh squad, with players that he can operate and players that he can use, and he's certainly giving himself the best opportunity.
Yeah, I think in terms of rotating the squad, there's no problem rotating the squad as long as there's still that balance. In terms of if you rotate, it's okay to rotate maybe 2 or 3. But I think if you rotate any more than that, I think you disrupt the balance of that starting 11 that may be the strongest starting 11 against certain teams. And, for, Pau Torres to come in, that'll be no problem as long as it's against an opposition where you're going to enjoy possession. In my opinion, that would be against the likes of Southampton, Manchester United, them teams where you're going to enjoy possession, where if you're going to up in the bigger games where you're going to be up against it, I think that's perfect for Tyrone Mings to come in. And in midfield, it's vice versa. Onana's probably great in terms of being in that possession team, but when you're up against it, I would love him again, Tielemans and Kamara, to be in that midfield, because they'll be the ones right for the battle. And when you're enjoying possession so much, then there's certain players you bring in to play that game. And I think that would be the most important thing for me, is to make sure that you don't disrupt the balance of that starting 11 going into certain games.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think there would be maybe tweaks to starting lineups depending on opposition. But I think they'd be more likely to be, he's, like you've said before, he's not scared in making big changes during games. 3 subs on at a time, 4 subs on at a time, subs at half time. He will be more than willing to do that, because he has the firepower off the bench, or he has the ability to change it. So it's certainly going to be interesting. If I was to ask you now, in terms of where you think we're going to finish with regards to the last 9 games of the season, and it does feel like every single weekend there's so much riding on every single game, every single weekend, because we don't play this weekend. Obviously, we picked up the point against Liverpool that would have been this weekend. But where would you say Villa would finish if you were to If I was to ask you now,
I'm going to say 5th. I think we can realistically do it. I think if we beat all the teams around us and then them teams, I think they kind of play around each other too.
oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think if we beat all them and then certain results kind of go away here and there, I think 5th can be doable. 6th at the lowest, and then if you're kind of not in that contention by a certain time frame, then you would have to turn your attention to the FA Cup to try and get Europe that way.
Yeah. I'm going to say 6th. I've stuck with that. I think all season. I think we'll finish in the top 6. FA Cup would be an absolute Brucey bonus. That would be unreal. And then Champions League, quarterfinals, semi-finals would be, semi-finals would be absolutely incredible.
Well, my plan is, and I'll say here now, no problem. If Villa be Preston in the quarterfinal, and myself and a few lads from Scotland and here in Ireland will be hoping to go down to London. We've an apartment booked close to Wembley, so even if we don't get a ticket, we're still going to be there
enjoying the atmosphere. Absolutely.
So Irish and Scottish people on the beer, what can go wrong?
Look, as Kev said, we've got 27 points to play for, which is it's still in our hands, which is what you want. Absolutely. Duncan said he thinks 5th, and the FA Cup. Champions League is an open book. Yeah, we know our Champions League is anything can happen in this. I mean, so the PSG looks strong, but you don't know what happens in their league. Between times if we were to face them, obviously we've got to get past Brugge. Liverpool, will they come unstuck a little bit? If you get through the next round, who are you going to face? Is it going to be Arsenal? Is it going to be
Real Madrid or Arsenal? Yeah.
Yeah, is it going to be Real Madrid? Could Atletico Madrid do something tomorrow against Real Madrid? Yeah. So there's so much at stake at the minute, which is so exciting. It's just brilliant to be involved in it, guys. Over 100 in the chat. It's amazing stuff. I know the Champions League is still running. We're still trying to find out who we're going to face, but please do smash the like button if you haven't already. Please do hit that subscribe button as well if you're new to the channel, and keep your comments flowing in. We've had a few comments around about this talk about Aston Villa in terms of the turnover. John said it has been said that Villa will announce a loss of around £80 million, I think, from the 23-24 accounts
season, yeah.
Which doesn't include the Duran money and the Champions League money, obviously, that we've made this current year, which we're obviously hopefully going to increase the Champions League money that we're going to make, and obviously the Adidas kits and all that kind of stuff, which I think the kit sales would have been incredible this year, to be honest with you. But how do you feel about this? Because I talked about this 96% wages to turnover ratio, which I think has been a bit distorted because I think they announced 13 months worth of accounts because of their bringing a month ahead because of the Douglas Luiz and all that stuff. So I think it was slightly distorted. But the 80 million losses, not as much as Chelsea, I might add, and I guess still keeps us we must be still within the PSR because they would already be saying this, but it does leave us falling foul of the UEFA ruling. So how do you feel about this? I mean, is everything hinging on European qualification? Or do you think we keep hold of our best players, or do you feel like we'll need to sell one or two, or do you think some more of the fringe players will go in terms and will cover for that? Do you see more young players leaving? How do you see it panning out?
I kind of think that everything's going to hinge on European qualification because we've seen the revenue what the Champions League has done for us in terms of record amount of money that came in. Albeit the prices that Chris Heck did charge, but still the record kind of came in itself. The Adidas deals and then there's talk next year of Villa going to the elite Adidas sponsorship in terms of getting that, old crest cover. So I think everything's going to hinge on that, and I think then as well is that if we do get it, then you're going to see a lot of fringe players leaving. In my opinion, I think it'll be a complete summer revamp of a squad of players that don't need to be there anymore. I think he might be selling 1 or 2, and I think he's probably going to look at the players who are earning the highest amount of money, and that being Luca Digne, although he's been absolutely credible for the club and he's sensational. But when you look at him earning £160,000 and you need to put these costs down in terms of the UEFA financial fair play, then he's the one who kind of has to be the sacrificial lamb.
Yeah. I had a comment from Kev before, said we'll sell Buendia, Barry, Dendoncker, Dobbin, and maybe Cash. So there are still quite a few players that could go, and it is one of those where now we operate at, I guess, 2 or 3 different levels in terms of selling players. We might be able to sell kind of a big player for PSR reasons, but we're also kind of a youth club, a youth team farmer, if you like, a bit like what Chelsea have been, where you're signing the best 16, 17, 18-year-olds. You might filter them into the first team, give them 1 or 2 appearances, which boost their value by 5-10 million, and then sell them off and get the money on that way. You also think some of these young, like sort of mid-level players that we've been getting that been going out on loan, Berenacea, who's been getting rave reviews, I imagine he'll come back into first team contention, but Illing Jr., 1 or 2 others that you might be able to sell for profit, if you like. So I think we've got quite a few players, as you say, that could be moved on without having to maybe touch some of the jewels in the crown. That being said, some of those potential jewels in the crown, Watkins, Martinez, dare I say it, 1 or 2 others that are kind of 29, 30, 31. Do you say, right, these are going to stay at the club for their last big contract? Or do you say, actually, it's time to move you guys on because we need to get a 24, 25-year-old to come in and come through into your place? So there'll be some decisions to make on some of those players that are sort of getting to that 29, 30-year-old age. Yeah. We talked about Luca Digne as well. That will potentially have to be a decision will have to be made on them.
Absolutely, and I just want to kind of talk about Berenacea. I mean, how good has he been for Valencia?
Apparently, he's been unreal.
Someone texted me on Twitter. I think his name is Santiago. He does all these tweets on players that are playing in Europe and everything, and does the scouting thing and YouTube as well. I watch him, and he's saying, Martin, you need to watch Berenacea. I said, you've got a real gem. I says, okay, and when I watched the game then in Valencia, the game there the weekend, I can't remember who they were playing against, but he just ran the show. I mean, on the ball, off the ball. I was literally looking at a Kamara regen. That's exactly it. I mean, like, he is so good, and I just think he's definitely going to come in, and that could mean then probably Barkley's probably going to get sold, because if Berenacea is that good playing for Valencia, what's to say he can't do that for us?
Oh, absolutely. It's very exciting to see, and it almost feels like it was sometimes loan moves don't quite work out, and you get the impression it hasn't quite worked out for Illing Jr., but certainly for Berenacea, it's certainly worked out for him so far, so that's really encouraging. Carl said Villa can make an extra 50 million if they reach the Champions League final.
Park the bus every single game. Doing Atletico Madrid, Diego Simeone tactics. Just park the bus and hope you get there.
Yeah, exactly. He is a gem, says Mr. Green, but how does he get ahead of Tielemans, Kamara, and Onana? Well, that's the thing. I mean, does we keep saying it, but does the John McGinn, does he drop out a little bit and Berenacea comes in as that 4th midfielder? It's it's a difficult one, but this is why you need big squads. We've seen how we've suffered with injury. We've got all these midfielders, so-called midfielders. We've had Barkley, we've had Onana this season, who've hardly featured, and we've had to. And Kamara's been in and out as well with injury, and we've literally had to survive with Tielemans and McGinn. So this is what happens as seasons go on. You get injuries, you get loss of form, you get all sorts of differences and challenges that come through the season. So I'm sure he will be a big part of the squad, let's say. But yeah, I think you're right in what you're saying. European football, if it's Europa League, I still think that's not the finances of the Champions League, but I still think it gives us a good solid base Yeah,
Yeah,
to keep players, to build on that, and then to push on, because you kind of build off the money that you got for the Champions League. You might not face as intense nights. We've had 2 years experience in European football. That would be the third years of experience. You can then push the league further, because you can then say, right, we're going to go for the Champions League more next season. So
yeah. Because if I'm right, you don't really get the Champions League money until the end of this season, isn't it?
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so
right.
you might
Yeah.
have all these earnings there ready to go, but like you won't get them until the season's finished. It was the same for the Conference League. That's probably why we were at that £80 million loss, because we didn't really get that money until the season was finished. That kind of accounts for this season more, say. So it'd be interesting to see what the loss or revenue, profit, whatever it might be at the end of this and the next, or sorry, this time next year, in terms of getting the Champions League money and then the Conference League money too.
Exactly. Exactly. Look, all great chat. Mr. Green asked the question. We're going to flip right back to talking about our Champions League tie and what might happen tomorrow. If we do win, though, before we get into predicted scorelines, who would you rather play, Liverpool or PSG?
Liverpool.
Why?
PSG's work rate is, I'm watching it here, they just do not stop. I mean, and to be able to do it and keeping up with Liverpool, Liverpool are struggling, and I'd rather Liverpool. And don't get me wrong, I know Liverpool's work rate is immense as well, but I would feel like getting Liverpool would be better for us than PSG. Just in my opinion, some people might say PSG, but I would think Liverpool, in my opinion.
My dad asked me this before, and I was like, for European adventure and for European kind of experience, I want PSG. But for, I
Yeah,
guess, familiarity and the way that we know how Liverpool play, we've played them twice this season, you probably take Liverpool. And I think most of the comments are saying that Liverpool penalties at Pool, says Dunk. Michelle says Liverpool. Julie says, think about the players. They want a PSG away day. Matt said he'd rather play Liverpool simply because Asensio would be able to play, and I think he could. I think he could play
can't play against
PSG. It's
PSG
happened
because
that it doesn't count. Yeah, it
it doesn't
doesn't count.
affect the Champions League, because we've seen
Yeah,
Coutinho beating Barcelona while he was playing for Bayern Munich, and
yeah. And Ilin Junior was on the bench against us, so they can play. They can play.
it's only in the
Paces
league and
Liverpool
domestic
as
cup
well.
competitions they can't.
Yeah, yeah. So most people saying Liverpool. The only thing I would say with regards to PSG is that I don't know how well they would handle Villa Park on a European night, and they might not know our players as well as Liverpool would know our players. So maybe we could keep it tight at Parc de
There is that
France.
element, yeah. There is that
You
element.
you've got the surprise factor. I mean, how much would they know of Morgan Rogers? And of course, you have scouts and all that kind of stuff. But we could really catch them and give them an absolute shock if we were to play them. And you imagine the night at Villa Park; it would be unbelievable. Brad says PSG. So
The only thing I would fear is maybe going to Liverpool on a Champions League night in Anfield. So that would be the only thing I'd be worried about. But because it's in the first leg, I wouldn't be as worried. That's why.
Exactly. PSG bottled it at St James's Park, said Matt. And yeah, Richard says we're not through yet. Exactly. So we can't get too carried away. So let's get score predictions. And guys, before we get right into score predictions, please do smash a like on the video. Hit the subscribe button if you are new. I'm going to get Martin to get his score prediction in for tomorrow. Don't forget, we are 3-1 up from the first leg, so we could still go through even if we get defeated tomorrow. So we are in a good spot. We're in a very, very good spot, and I don't think anyone would have. I don't think anyone would have expected that after going into the game. I think we all thought it was going to be a very tough game, and it will still be a very tough game. But we've put ourselves in a really good spot. So, Martin, what do you think for tomorrow in terms of the result tomorrow, and then obviously what that would mean for aggregate?
I'm gonna say the same scoreline, so 3-1, so that'd be 6-2 in aggregate. I'm gonna go with an Ollie Watkins goal. I'm going to back Tielemans to get himself a goal. And I'm going to
Rashford
make
to
a
get his first.
Yeah, I was going to say Rashford is first, but I think in terms of a proper redemption, Tyrone Mings to get a goal.
That'd be amazing. Be amazing. Duncan said 5-2 on aggregate versus Bruges. So what would that be? A 2-1 win for Villa?
2-1 win, yeah.
Yeah. Dickie says 0-0 would do the job. Absolutely would do the job, mate. Matt says 2-0 Villa, Watkins and Rashford. Julie agrees with you, mate. 6-2 aggregate victory, so 3-1 win. Stephen says a 1-2 nail biter. So that would be what, 4-3 on aggregate?
Or 3, yeah.
Ooh, that would be tough. 3-1 says Stephen, Rashford brace and Morgan Rogers. James says a clean sheet, please. Yes, definitely. Kay says 2-1, 5-2 on aggregate for Villa, Rogers and Tielemans. And Gary said we never make things easy. 100% Bruges score first, but a 1-1 draw. So that would be, 4-2 on aggregate. Yeah. I think I'm going to say a 2-1 Villa win. I think we'll have enough to win, but I don't think it'll be a clean sheet. And Brad says 2-1 Villa. Patty says 3-1 Villa. So agreeing with you, mate. And Richard says 1-1 as well. So everyone is confident that we go through on aggregate, which is fantastic. And I guess if we were chatting in our group, if you'd say, most of us thought just to get into like the top 24, just get into the playoff round. But we've not only done that, mate, we qualified for the top 8 and we're 3-1 up in the last 16 with a massive opportunity to get into the quarterfinals. If we got to the quarterfinals, I mean, it's kind of beyond our dreams, really.
Yeah, I mean, if someone told me at the very start the Villa would get top 8 and then potentially be in the quarterfinal of the Champions League, I'd bite your hand off. I mean, I don't think this was anybody's expectations, but to be able to get top 8 and potentially quarterfinal is what dreams are made of, and it goes to show that it's an absolute masterclass from Unai Emery in Europe. And you never know.
You and Duncan must be on the same wavelength here. There you are. Emery is a Euro masterclass.
Well done. But yeah, so I just think that even if we can if we go further than that, sky's the limit. If we end up winning the Champions League, nobody's going to see me for about a month.
Exactly.
Work's not going to see me. My friends are not going to see me. Nobody's going to know where I am. But all you need to know is something's being consumed, and that's about it.
Fantastic. Look, let's just make sure it's a special night tomorrow. If you go into the game, please bring the noise and make it an absolutely special atmosphere. Get us through to that quarterfinals. It'll be unbelievable. And yeah, it can really go all forwards, as Judy said, to be an unforgettable season this year. So we want to create more memories and let's make sure that we get through to the next round. Martin, been a pleasure tonight, mate. Everyone watching, absolutely brilliant comments in the chat. Make sure you hit the like button and hit the subscribe button as well. We'll be back with an instant reaction tomorrow, hopefully seeing us progress into the next round. And we'll have talking tactics with Gareth. We'll have, I think we might do a bit more fans forum-y sort of season review where we are so far, because we've got a bit of a break after this, haven't we? So we'll do some maybe more fun shows over the next few days, over the coming week. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Might even bring my transfer talk shows because there's plenty of rumours coming out at the minute. So make sure you stay tuned to the channel. Thank you all for watching. And as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.